Alrighty, welcome to another very special week-long episode of my Arundel Biz podcast. I'm Grayson Orfe.
And I'm Allison Akers. We're your hosts from Arundel Economic Development. So as you've seen, a couple days this week, we're going live every day for featured conversations with our resource partners. This has come about because it is Maryland Economic Development Week. And honestly, we even sitting at the conference, the Maryland MEDA conference on Monday, it was all talking about collaboration and how you really, economic development offices, it's really a collaborative effort between all of your stakeholders in your counties and your resource partners, and we took that and we ran with it. So we are doing It Takes a Village podcast this week. So we're featuring all of our featured partners. Today we have our very special Sarah Horta, who will be talking about our tech-focused initiative that we have launched here in Anne Arundel County at Economic Development, as well as Gary Evans, who is here for Deftech. So, Gary, give us introduction, a little bit of background about you.
Okay, so my background is I started off life as a scientist in a university, but got into the whole business of starting companies, and I've been an entrepreneur for most of my career. And all of that has been focused around commercializing technologies, taking scientific and engineering research from universities and government labs and creating products and creating companies out of it. So that's my personal background.
And you run the Deftech Center.
I do. I'm the executive director of the Deftech Center, and I'll be happy to tell you some more about that.
Awesome. Sarah, give us a little bit of background on your role here at AAEDC.
Sure. So I work as the Business Development Associate here, focusing on supporting, attracting, and retaining the technology sector here in the county. Actually got my first start internship at Department of Commerce when it was then Maryland DBED. And while I was in grad school, I actually worked under Ellen Hemmerly at BW Tech at UMBC. Technology park there, working with the cyber companies there. So I like to think I'm still doing business development, but obviously in a larger service area here in the county.
Yeah, and honestly, when we're talking about our partners today, we're featuring a really unique regional partnership, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll get a little bit into that.
So, Gary, in simple terms, can you tell us about the Deftech Center?
Sure, and I will try and be brief. So there are really three things that we do with the Deftech Center, but to start, it's important to emphasize why the thing exists. This originated as an initiative of the Maryland Department of Commerce, and it was in response to the belief that there was an opportunity for more Maryland companies to really leverage the assets and the resources that are available through the Department of Defense research labs, which exist in Maryland. And so what we do is really three things. So the first thing is that we undertake what we refer to as outreach and awareness, which is really just making people aware that there's a phenomenal range of resources within the DoD labs in Maryland, from facilities, equipment, expertise, and also patents that have been filed by the DoD. And they would really like people to take those patents and turn them into products that may be things that they would buy back, or maybe that would be used in non-military contexts. So getting that message out to people is really important for us, making people aware that that's there. On top of that, what we also do is we run a number of educational activities to help people understand how you actually take a technology, take a patent, or work with one of the labs to do joint development work, because companies may have an interest in that area but may not necessarily have experience of doing it. And so we run a lot of educational activities. And the third thing is that when we establish that a company has a specific interest and is relevant to what one of the labs does, we work with them on a one-on-one basis and help introduce them and develop a relationship and facilitate that process. And generally that translates into one of two things, or maybe both of them. One is that they may license a patent from the lab and develop that internally. The other is that they may work collaboratively with the lab through a particular form of agreement, which is known as a Cooperative Research and Development Agreement, or CRADA for short. And we help them facilitate and put that together and make sure the process works smoothly. And so those are the three things that we do. There's some more detail to exactly how we do those things, but that's the kind of high-level view.
Now, if I'm a local business, how, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, how would I be able to get connected with the DoD commercializing aspect of technology of what you guys do?
So the simple thing is just to contact us. We have a website, we have a social media presence, and most importantly, we have a total of 13 partners now. As I said, the initiative began with the Maryland Department of Commerce, but we have a number of different counties and cities around the state who are partners, of course, one of which is Arundel County. And we can't be everywhere at once, and we rely enormously on our partners to help us find companies that may be interested in what we do. If you go to our website, there's a contact email, there's a contact phone number, and we're happy to hear from anyone.
What's your website?
It is deftechmd.com. So DEFTECHMD.com.
And then I know we also have on our website, rundabiz.org, we also have a technology section that outlines what Gary and his team does, and anybody can contact Sarah or Gary to start the process.
Absolutely.
Now, if I were to come in, can you walk me through the one-on-one process on the steps that you guys do if I'm a small company and I
Sure.
come in for your help and everything? Can you take a step-by-step of what that entails?
Yeah, certainly. So the first thing that we do is talk to you as the company and develop an understanding of what it is you do and what particular area of interest you might have in some kind of relationship with one of the labs. And of course, the labs focus on different things, and we can figure out which is the best fit. What we then do is we have a database of all of the patents that are available from the labs. And so we'll sit down with you and work through that and see, is there anything specific that's available in the form of a patent that might be a good fit for you? What we don't do, though, is try and sort of push anybody in a particular direction. And a number of the companies that we do have contact with, the conclusion is, well, right now at least, there isn't a good fit, and that's fine if that's the kind of logical conclusion from the thing. And the last thing we want to do is encourage somebody to do something which is not the right thing for their business.
Right.
So this might be a way for them to complement what they're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, we see a lot of different companies, large ones and small ones. Sometimes it's a company that has an existing product or even a range of products, and what they're looking for is something to enhance those products, maybe an additional technology, or maybe they want to, create a whole new product line and they're interested in finding a technology that may be relevant. Mm-hmm. With small companies, often they're in the process of developing something, but they may have run into a problem or a hurdle or something, and they're looking for a technology that may help them solve that. So it really spans an enormous spectrum, and what we do is respond to the specific needs of each individual company.
Do you have a success story you can talk about yet? It's okay if you can't.
Well, we do, but actually it's a very good point, and it's something that I think is very important. We treat all of the information that we get from companies about their business as absolute secrecy, even to the extent that the organizations who provide our funding, we don't share with them what we're doing or who we're doing it with, unless if we're required to. So, for example, some of our funding comes from the Federal Economic Development Administration, and it's a requirement of the funding that we make a report twice a year to them about which companies we're working with. But aside from that, we don't do that unless we actually specifically have the permission of the company to do so. But in general terms, we have one company that has licensed the technology and also signed a cooperative research and development agreement with one of the labs for a medical device application. We have another company that is working with the NSA, which is local to you guys, exploring the idea of licensing one of the patents that they have. But I can't really say more than that because of this issue of confidentiality, which is extremely important to us.
So that's a good point about, I wanted to ask about what kind of patents are in the defense database, and it sounds like they have a broad spectrum.
There's an enormous range. So to put it in context, if you think of a big university, a big university might have 2,000 or 3,000 people actually doing research. So if you take all of the DoD labs in Maryland, you're probably looking at 25,000 people doing research, and they cover everything from really sort of fundamental physics through to medicine, through to chemistry and biology, pretty much anything you can think of. And as I said at the beginning, they have an enormous array of facilities and resources that they really want people to engage with, because they see bringing companies in and having them as partners as a really valuable part of how the DoD actually develops what it needs for the warfighter.
So you guys are working throughout Maryland in order to help companies all around Maryland get access to these databases that might complement what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. It's reasonable to say that we focus a lot of our activity in the locations where we do have partners, but in reality, we're happy to work with a company from anywhere in Maryland, if there's something we can do with them.
But really, it's spanning many different industries, so
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
that's important to know.
Pretty much any industry you can think of, and almost any kind of technology you can think of. Like I say, from biotech all the way through chemistry, physics, electronics, cyber stuff, which is, again, very important here locally. So pretty much anything, and we've yet to find a company that's doing something where there isn't some kind of potential connection.
So even if they don't have it fully thought out, it might be worth a conversation with you guys to sit down and be like, well, hey, we might have something that you could use.
Yeah, absolutely, and we have contact from, all manner of companies, in industries that would probably surprise you, from textiles to, medical devices, pretty much anything you can think of. And as I said at the beginning, we would never want to encourage a company to do something where it wasn't a good fit or it wasn't right for their business, but we're always happy to talk to people.
Awesome.
Now, Gary, a little while ago you mentioned cyber, and we are so lucky to have AAEDC's very own cyber guru, Sarah the Cyberbot. I'm sorry.
Running joke.
Running joke from Mako. We got Sarah here.
That's a great picture.
So, Sarah, can you explain to us about the Tech Toolbox?
Sure. And, with talking about this, I kind of want to give kind of a 10,000-foot overview of the county and relate it, kind of condense it down and highlight kind of why we're here and why it's important. So here in Anne Arundel County, we support 52,000 businesses with, I think, a population of 570,000 people. So I think the last time I looked at the Bureau of Labor in 2018, about 1,800 of those businesses are tech companies that support, I think, about 23,000 employees. So when I say tech companies, there's NAICS codes that can define a whole range of tech, so that might be a little bit more. But putting that scope into the arms of the largest employer, not only in the county, because it's housed here, but the state of Maryland, Fort Meade. I saw you guys did a podcast with Tim O'Farrell.
Yep.
I think yesterday was phenomenal, and he's a great partner for us. Fort Meade, as you said, accounts the economic impact of $28 billion. The fort holds about 56,000 employees on that base, and accounts for about 140,000 direct and indirect jobs. So while not every company that supports those missions of 119 installations is located in Anne Arundel County, we're just seeing this fantastic boom around areas like Annapolis Junction, National Business Park, Hanover, BWI, Odenton,
Yep.
and even here in Annapolis where we have the Naval Academy and the Hopper Hall being created, and even the Founder Track program in Annapolis, which I think is celebrating their third demo day
Yep.
coming up.
Yep.
So it's phenomenal growth. And really looking at the Tech Toolbox, we want to support that growth for smaller companies who are making a difference, because when they support the missions of Fort Meade, those are national security missions. So we recognize kind of what's in our wheelhouse and what we can support and help grow here in the county. So the Tech Toolbox is really comprised of, it's a 5-prong network. So we have set up a really robust mentor network, working with legal firms to support issues like IP, ITAR, GDPR, the FAR, DFAR, CMMC requirements that are coming out of DoD. We worked with Michelle Perry in the past, who does her go-to-market strategy classes, and other subject matter experts that can help working with a company who may have come out of those 3-letter agencies, and they want to create a widget and they want to sell this widget to Morgan Stanley, and arguably selling that widget commercially is a lot different than selling it to the federal government, which I think Gary can attest to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that, and as well as we work with Gloria Larkin from Target Gov. She has helped companies get into the DoD space, win federal contracting
Talk about
opportunities.
another fantastic resource.
Oh, phenomenal. And she makes sure, what your SAM profile, matching the keywords and phrases to your company description, is very closely tied to the keywords and phrases of procurement opportunities that are coming out from
Correct.
contracting. It's super important to making sure those keywords match what your potential customer is coming out with and aligning those. So it's the mentor network. Of course, the workforce training grant that we have, we can reimburse 50% to $1,000 per employee with no cap. And when you use the community college here, Anne Arundel Community College, there's a little bit more of a kickback. So that's a phenomenal resource that we have here. And while that doesn't reimburse for travel, we have partnered with Southwest Airlines, obviously, because BWI is here in the county, and we can give out vouchers to companies that are going to trade shows, that are going to RSA, that are going out to Black Hat, or they're sending people to Oklahoma for training classes. And then, of course, the Next Stage Fund, which was the big bulk of our Tech Toolbox, my favorite part. So it was set up as a 0% interest loan up to $250,000 to help kind of mezzanine level companies working with the federal government. They don't get paid for 90 to 120 days. They're still growing, they're hiring, they're winning contracts, and they need some of that gap financing. They need some working capital. And maybe they're not ready for a bank, but this is something that we, as a small, supporting small business, that we can help get them there, and we can coach them how to be bankable and work with M&T Bank or, Severn Springs or whatever. And then the last, kind of the fifth one that I add at the end, is super important. It's advocacy. So we support, there's really big national level issues like the clearance problem, workforce issues, and even local problems like agricultural problems, health issues, the opioid epidemic, and even our favorite planning and zoning problems that companies might have, and ask us how to walk through that process. We can kind of handhold them through that process, because not every company knows about that process, and working with engineers in our office. So it's a phenomenal free resource that we can do for them.
Now, next, I have kind of a two-part question, because I've heard the Tech Toolbox be described as unique.
Yes.
And I want to know, two-part question: why is it unique, and also do other counties offer this?
Sure. So, to my knowledge, I don't think that any other county in the state of Maryland has this holistic approach, per se, of helping, especially this sector, in such a defined way. It's unique because we can leverage our important partners in the state of Maryland, like Deftech, and the state of Maryland, for example, our workforce training agreement.
Yeah.
We can piggyback off the state's agreement or state's training program. They reimburse 50% to $4,500 with a company annual cap of 40K, but you have 2 pots that companies here in the county can delve into and ultimately get money back in their pocket. You know, for financing, you know, we're a small piece of it, but then you have TEDCO, you have the state of Maryland. When you get those big numbers in capital investment, they have the NEDAC program. You know, we have the community college here, but, you know, there's a company out in College Park Cybrary, which is great, and they train a lot of our employers in the county. And even connecting not only to Deftech, but Dreamport in Howard County.
Yep.
So companies are supporting Cyber Command from that PIA. You know, we can make that connection, but if they ultimately grow out of that and look for somewhere to make, you know, their home, hopefully it's in Arundel. If it's not, that's okay. But we're there making that connection. So it's such, you know, partnership is such a buzzword for every conference that we go to. But we're acting on it, I think, and I think we're doing a really great job.
Yeah, so I mean, in tying it back to Economic Development Week, this is a resource that we have created and you manage, and you do a fantastic job getting it out in front of companies that is specifically for the tech industry. But it brings together all these incentives that we can offer, as well as the added connection of partnerships throughout Maryland.
Absolutely.
So let's get a little bit into the numbers, because we love numbers in economic development.
We do.
So how much money have we allocated so far through Next Stage Fund?
I love this question. So there are 10 recipients of our Next Stage Fund with 11 loans, because we actually had a company come back to us that was continuing to grow and take out more money. We had it available. We've given out a little more than $1 million over these 10 companies. And that accounts for about 60 new jobs here in the county, and they're all located here, or maybe they work from home when they got started. I worked with our Small Business Development Center with Candace, and they took up space here in the county. So, I mean, that's phenomenal. And not even from the economic development, you know, perspective, we care about job numbers and capital investment and loans and numbers, but working with these companies and seeing them use this money and actually apply it and see what the end results are, and they're continuing to grow and work with us, is great. So I love any numbers questions that people have about this program.
Well, they're lucky that they have somebody as passionate as you are
Yeah.
about the industry. I will say that. So what about workforce training grants? You've mentioned that a couple times. How many companies have used that as part of the Tech Toolbox to upskill their employees and pay for their training?
Sure. So since January 1st, 2018 is when I could go back, we've given out just shy of $100,000 to about 14 different companies. And that being said, they have come back, and as we have money in our program, we continue to lend it out. So just shy of $100,000, and we've trained just over 300 people. So that's certification based, because they can get pricey. It's non-certification based. It's software that can make a company run more smoothly. So it's a wide variety of any upskilling that an employer can kind of drive home. If they can backfill the position, they can hire new people, that employee gets a higher salary, or a lot of times in the government contracting world, they win a contract, and that, you know, the employees on that contract need to be a CISSP, or they need to learn Java for them to gain that contract. So that's something that we can help with as well.
Awesome.
So it sounds like all the companies that get connected to Deftech and that are located in Anne Arundel County can use the Tech Toolbox and vice versa, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would, you know, always, when we're working with the company, we always look for those additional opportunities to connect them to more resources.
Okay. And so why is that partnership important to the Deftech mission?
So as I said earlier on, you know, a big part of what we do is just communicating to the business community that all of these resources are available to them. We have a small team. I have a couple of great people who work with me, Kim Mazingo and Griffin St. Louis, but we're a small team, and so we have to work with our partners to get the message out and to help with the process of engaging with individual companies. And so the partnership component of what we do is absolutely fundamental to being successful.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you, Gary and Sarah.
Well,
Any
thank you.
last
Thank you.
words? Any way that people, how can companies contact you?
So, via our website, you can contact us by email or through the phone number that's there. And maybe what I can do is share with you our individual email addresses, and
Sure.
we can post those
Yep, sure.
on the site.
And same thing with kind of here at AAEDC. If you go to aedc.org and go to the technology page, my contact info is right there, so feel free to reach out.
Awesome. So these are two really great partnerships and resources that here in Anne Arundel County, as well as Maryland as a whole, has available to the businesses around here. And we're just doing our part to kind of highlight those resources that are available to both county employees as well as all of our businesses as part of Maryland Economic Development Week. So we look forward to highlighting some more. Tomorrow we have the Anne Arundel Community College, so you can tune in around lunchtime tomorrow and hear about everything that the community college has to offer our county residents as well as all of our businesses. And then on Friday we have our fantastic Candace Pruitt Small Business Development Resource Center, who will be talking about how she helps entrepreneurs start up their businesses. So tune in on our Facebook page and we will see you there. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.